Welcome to some and welcome back to a few. I ramble review, it's what I do. And today I'm here with something a little different again. Instead of reviewing a single book, I'm going to be talking about a few different books in my collection and along the way talking about my collecting habits. Because as you see, my bookshelf back there is very, very full. And I have to ask myself from time to time why I want to add a book to my collection, what makes it worth it, both monetarily and space-wise. I thought I would start with one of my new favorites, The Savior's Champion by Jenna Morassi. So this is a fiction, a dark fantasy romance to be specific, and I picked it up because I really like the YouTube channel associated with this writer. I will admit to independently ending up loving the book afterwards, but I really, really wanted to support her as an artist and kind of dove in headfirst without knowing much about the book at all when I picked it up. I'm really glad I did, and I will probably be supporting more indie authors as a result of this really good first experience diving in. Let's hope my luck stays that good, right? Fingers crossed. I did also pick up a nonfiction book by a YouTuber I enjoy who is traditionally published, and that is From Here to Eternity by Ask a Mortician. I cannot actually pronounce her real name, but it is right here. I know her first name is Caitlin. It's the last name I struggle with really hard. Like, my tongue does not want to work around it. So I'm sorry, Caitlin, if you ever see this. Love this book as well. I had actually already read two other books by this author when I picked it up and already knew that I wanted this book, but did not know what to do about picking it up in a hardback edition so that it would match the rest of my set. Because interestingly, it was not available through Books A Million or Barnes & Noble or anything like that. A very helpful Instagrammer whose name I have forgotten, I am so sorry if you see this, pointed out that I should try typing in library binding after its title in Amazon, and that was effective for finding it. So if anyone else is struggling with finding a hardback of a certain book, maybe try that trick. It worked out for me. Oh. Oh boy. So I also got really into collecting bookstore editions of books for a hot minute. I only have two books from when I was super into that. One of them is going to age me quite a bit. If anyone remembers Borders, I have a copy of the Odyssey in the Borders edition. I absolutely love the Odyssey. I actually want to get a copy of this in a different edition to match my copy of the Iliad eventually, but for now, I have a copy and it's serving fine. Yeah, let's just not put that in any sort of organized pile, right? My other bookstore edition book I have is from Barnes & Noble, and it is Dracula and Other Horror Stories. I know it just says Dracula on the front, but it is indeed Dracula and Other Stories. I love the end papers in this book so much. So this one is actually a witness to one of my greatest weaknesses in book collecting. I love shiny covers. I'm a sucker for gilding, and even more so if it's pleather bound. I don't have anything against actual leather. I probably should. I'm aware of some ethical implications there. But pleather does seem to be how most of the leather books I find are bound. So I've learned to love it. That said, this was an aesthetic buy. I already owned a copy of Dracula. I ended up rehoming it through the used bookstore near me because I love this copy more and it's got extra stories in it. But it is definitely a witness to my weakness as a book collector. Next, I have this lovely copy of the Billion, which I think is in focus. Yes, okay. Also, the Gilded Pages sort of drew me in, but I had wanted a copy of this one for a very, very long time. And I was super happy to find a copy that was in a material like this. I find hardback pleather-bound books much more comfortable to hold, and most of the copies and editions of the Kabylion I've seen previously were in this really strange paperback material that has a texture that my brain does not get along with. So this was one of those I waited a really long time for, and then just got a happy surprise of an edition I didn't know existed being a really good fit for what I wanted. Next, we have possibly my favorite book I have ever actually sought out a specific edition for, and that is the Geekify Inc. bind-up of The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. So several things I like about this book. One, I just love the story, have huge nostalgia factor, watched the movie when I was younger, discovered it was a book as I got to college, devoured the book in a single sitting, then read it several more times, and I'm still in love with it to this day. But also, I am a sucker for pleather-bound, shiny books, and this one has these three-dimensional, add-ons to it that they please my texture brain. That said, they're also the reason that this book can't just get slid onto a bookshelf the way I would with other books when I'm not wanting to show them to people, and it has to have its own, stand to be taken care of properly, because otherwise the pleather can get scratched, and then this book that you love and care about is damaged, and yes, the content inside is still fine, but there is something very sad about when something that pretty gets damaged. I can't really explain, probably a mental thing on my end. Next, we have one of my favorite editions of books to collect. You can probably see them on my bookshelf back there. I really like Easton Press books, which I'm going to clarify are Easton, not Eastern, as my accent has apparently caused much confusion within my friend group about these books. Said the copy I brought down to show is Brave New World, because it is one of my favorite dystopian literatures. A lot of people tell me it's technically a utopian literature. That's an argument for a different day. That said, I love the built-in bookmarks. I love the gilded edges. Love the leather binding. Honestly, I just love everything about Eastern Press. That said, if I was not very, very, very lucky, I would not have any Eastern Press books. Most of the ones I acquired through a used bookstore near me that happened to get a large number of them in and was able to let them go at very reasonable prices. I have seen the online collection community for these editions, and I know that price gouging is a really big problem in that community. That said, I'm going to try not to have everything fall off the shelf. That would be excellent. And I'm aware that I'm saying that said a lot. I think it's become sort of like saying for me. Moving on. My greatest frustration as a book collector, especially of occult and pagan books, is I want more of them in hard print, or hardback, in hardback, because my shelves are not friendly to paperback books. I have a tendency to overstuff them, covers get crinkled, things get smushed, it's not a good time. So I like to get hard print books. Hardback, I've said that twice now. What is going on with me? But Scarlet imprint, of which this is Apocalyptic Witchcraft and this is Lucifer Princeps, only does limited print runs of their hardback books. Which means if you're on any type of budget, you really have to plan very far ahead and then hope that the book you're going after doesn't sell out massively quickly, and then you can only find people price gouging online trying to make 6 or 7 times what they spent on the book in the resale of it, because it's technically out of print. I will say, if you're interested in Scarlet imprint books, do look at the paperbacks. The typeface is still the same, the margins are still the same, they are still wonderful books. And that's probably how I'm going to go forward in reading books with Scarlet imprint, is picking up their paperbacks. With the exception specifically of Peter Gray's books, since I already have 2 in hardback, and I do have a slight obsession about trying to make an author's books all match each other, at least close to match each other. Try to get that on a stack. Yes, they're finally on the stack. Well, that's all I've got for today. Thank y'all for dealing with my little ramble and my thoughts on book collecting. Y'all have a wonderful evening.